Welcome back. Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Yesterday, appreciate people and your patience because we didn't even get to have a live show. I was doing show prep, getting things ready, and literally 5 minutes before the show was set to go live, my entire village lost internet. Not sure what the cause was, some kind of damage according to the internet service provider, but it ultimately did get remedied sometime late in the afternoon hours. So glad that it's full bore here and we're live with you so we can keep you updated because there's tons to tackle. We've got to talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker reacting to the Department of Justice filing in the gun ban challenge in the appeals court. So we'll tackle that and read a little bit of that filing from the U.S. Department of Justice, but also about a third of states' attorneys across the states have filed a brief supporting the plaintiffs and the district court judge that said the gun ban is unconstitutional. So that also happening over the weekend. So we'll tackle that. We also have to look at Governor J.B. Pritzker signing the largest state spending plan in Illinois history that includes tax increases on everything from sports wagering to tobacco to a whole host of other things. So we'll have to get into that. Plus the back and forth over immigration enforcement with Governor J.B. Pritzker and Donald Trump, with increased enforcement efforts expected in Chicago. So a lot to tackle. But up next, pretty historic, and that is former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. He's going to have to report to prison in October. This after sentencing handed down late Friday. The Center Square reporter Jim Talamonte up in Chicago was in that courtroom, and we will talk with him next here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning as we bring you the latest and what's going on in the land of Lincoln. Got to turn that mic on. Former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan is going to have to report to prison for 90 months. How long is that, and what's the fine, and what is all this for? Let's talk with the Center Square's Jim Talamonte, who is up in Chicago reporting for the Center Square, keeping us posted as to what was going on in that courtroom. And Jim, holy cow, I mean, you've experienced history here, sitting through that trial and now through this historic sentencing. Pretty remarkable stuff. What's the main takeaway that you've got here?
It was quite a dramatic day on Friday, and it was a pretty long sentencing hearing. You know, some sentencing hearings last a few minutes, but this one, the judge, John Robert Blakey, was quite thorough, and he ruled on the enhancements to sentencing and mitigations to sentencing. And when he's going through the enhancements to sentencing, based on calculating guidelines for potential prison time, fine amounts, all of that. He's considering the recommendations from the two sides, but at the same time, he's formulating his own calculations. And as he went through the aggravating enhancements, one after the other, siding with prosecutors, the government has proved beyond a reasonable doubt. The government has proved. But then he got to the mitigating circumstances, and this is where he's factoring in, all of the about 200 letters sent on Madigan's behalf, pleading for mercy. His wife sending a video. She's apparently battling colon cancer, and so she's talking about how much she needs him and he needs her. Former Attorney General Lisa Madigan, the former Speaker's daughter, sent letters. Former governors, former Governor Thompson, who since passed away, there was a letter sent on his behalf, and former Governor Edgar. These are Republicans, and Republicans were often not talked about in very nice terms during this trial, especially former Governor Rauner. Well, he didn't send a letter, but so anyway, as the judge goes through these, boy, he's kind of waxing poetic here. I wonder if he's going to, be very, very lenient, and then as he gets to the actual sentencing, he started by talking about supervised release. And that he said after the prison term, but he goes on for a while about this. And boy, is that all that's going to happen here is probation and a fine? But no, he got to it, and this judge was he's been described, and I've seen it in some of the other cases that have gone on while we were waiting during jury deliberations that this judge ruled on. Certainly compassionate, caring, but also firm. And boy, did we see that. He said not only did he read all of the letters sent on Madigan's behalf, he dwelled on them. He really spent a whole weekend on it. But when it came down to it, 7.5 years. In my head, I'm calculating 90 months. What is that? 7.5 years. So 7.5 years prison time. He went over the prosecutor's recommended fine. Prosecutors recommended $1.5 million. He went to the statutory maximum, $2.5 million, and all but said he would have gone higher had the law allowed him to fine Madigan more. So he was, Barack Obama appointed judge, fellow Notre Dame fan. In fact, Judge Blakey teaches, during the trial on Thursdays after court concluded, he would drive to South Bend to teach in the law school at Notre Dame, a Thursday night class. But he was quite emphatic, and so he pretty solid. Now, there were people like, oh, maybe he'll get what Ed Burke got, the former Chicago alderman, again, another longtime Democratic Party boss and political control person, and his fiefdom, whose influence went beyond that. But now 7.5 years, when prosecutors had recommended 12.5, and some people suggested that might be a lot. But yeah, pretty. When he went through these, he actually did calculations. Said that, well, the calculations show me a 105-year sentence.
Right.
But of course, that and even the judge said, well, this is really this is difficult. This is such a wide range of options here. But
well, and tell us, you sat through the hearings. You sat through waiting for the jury to make up their mind on 20 plus counts. They ultimately came down to just 10. We went through a lot of the wiretap recordings and the undercover video and emails galore. Distilled down for people what it was exactly that Madigan was ultimately convicted of, leading to this 7.5-year prison sentence.
Of the 23 counts, these were all public corruption charges. There was bribery, there was conspiracy, wire fraud. But in essence, 6 of the counts came down to a ruse, which prosecutors admitted was a ruse they set up along with federal investigators, FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office working together with cooperating witness Daniel Solis, who was wearing a wire. And this was for an exchange for Solis to seek a state board seat, to ultimately step down as alderman, get a state board. The state of Illinois has all these boards and commissions with rather highly paid seats on these boards and commissions. So Solis wanted to get out of the Chicago City Council and get this nice, comfy state board seat. So he said, as part of a ruse set up by the feds. And in exchange, he's directing law business to Madigan's law firm. As we later learned, Madigan was making over $1 million a year most years with this real estate law firm. So, appealing property taxes for mainly large real estate, large commercial developments, high rises, etc. So that was a ruse set up, given that the feds, had this idea that this was going on, that people were steering business to Madigan in exchange for political favors. Then there were 4 counts he was convicted on related to ComEd. And this is where Madigan's political allies, precinct workers, campaign workers, people in his, in the Democratic Party of Illinois, or more specifically, in some cases, his 13th Ward Democratic organization in Chicago, they would get these jobs where they did little or nothing for ComEd through a contractor. So they were subcontractors. And in exchange, ComEd got legislation pushed through, energy legislation, which benefited ComEd to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. Over a decade, prosecutors estimated $750 million. But they said that was a very, very conservative estimate, and the judge agreed with that assessment. And of course, all of us have seen utility rights rise during that time. Madigan was not convicted on counts related to ComEd or much discussed Chinatown parcel, a parcel of land in Chinatown, in Chicago's Chinatown neighborhood. And his co-defendant, Michael McLean, was not, they were either found not guilty or the jury deadlocked on the other counts. Now, after the sentencing, or at the end of the sentencing, prosecutors moved to dismiss those other counts against Madigan only. So he will not face further trial. There was also one AT&T related count, kind of similar to the ComEd counts, where there was do-nothing work in exchange for legislation to benefit AT&T. During the trial, I thought that looked like the strongest count against Madigan, but the jury deadlocked on it. So it was a very big, complicated case, and the government just brought mountains of evidence. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of emails, texts, recordings, some with video, some just audio. It was a massive case. It took a massive effort of more than a decade to get this case to trial and ultimately get a conviction. But the government got it. They got their man, and this was the most powerful man in Illinois politics for a long time.
For a long time. I mean, he was Speaker of the Illinois House for more than 30 years. He served as the Democrat Party chairperson for Illinois, which that nexus of power gives him party purse powers, and then also the ability to steer legislation through the state house. So pretty remarkable stuff. So Jim, what happens next? I mean, he's set to report to prison, October 13th?
That's the date set, and the judge set that date, October 13th at 2 p.m. We don't know which federal prison he'll report to, and there's some ambiguity here. The defense attorney suggested, and the prosecutors acknowledged, that there will likely be a motion to appeal this. There will likely be an effort again, perhaps to postpone. I don't know that just his wife's condition alone would allow for a postponement, but could the judge grant him sort of a stay on that date, or a postponement of that date, while a potential appeal is considered? So that, and obviously the details still have to be worked out about where he will actually report to prison. So, but that's the date that's set, and if nothing were to change, 2 p.m. October 13th, Madigan will begin that 90-month prison sentence at some federal facility.
And the judge, I mean, he didn't mince words. He kind of talked about, Madigan talks of doing good for the community and helping others. But, I mean, he straight up called Madigan a liar, and even talked about how it was nauseating to hear some of these kind of equivocating of sorts of, is Madigan a good guy or is he that bad guy? But he really kind of seemed to hammer in that Madigan was playing both roles.
Yeah, and again, as we learned on verdict day, and I think this was really reinforced by the judge, Madigan testifying in his own defense didn't work out very well for the former speaker, and his team. When that Bandits tape was introduced, one of the jury members had said that was significant, and Judge Blakey described, as you said, nauseating. He described Madigan's testimony as a nauseating display of perjury and evasion. And also, as you said, you lied, sir. You lied. And Blakey looked right at him. And this is a man who's not always easy to look at, Michael Madigan. When there were mornings when he'd walk by us going in, or walk by me sometime. It was just me, and he'd be cheery and say good morning. Other times you'd get that Madigan glare. And once he kind of looked at me with that sneer that I recall he looked at you with a few times.
Many times. That's right.
Many times outside the Illinois Capitol. And I'm like, wow, this guy's, and the judge said there are two Mike Madigans. A story of heroes and villains. His defense attorney, just before sentencing, just the other day, a teen came up to Mike and asked him, he's going into the trades, and Mike said, well, how can I help? And Dan Collins, who who was really the lead defense attorney, said, I call Mike a friend. I've learned to, and these appeals on his behalf were really heartfelt, far more heartfelt than any appeal Madigan made on his own behalf. He scribbled down when the judge offered him a chance to speak before the sentence was handed down. He looked at his lawyers, kind of wasn't sure what to do, that was a rare moment for Mike Madigan. They took a break, about a 10-minute break. Then he had some notes written on paper, and he read, "I'm sorry for what, the people of Illinois have gone through with this." But this was not something that was prepared. It was just,
Well, it didn't really seem like it was a message of regret or,
no.
I'm sorry that the state's going through this. I'm not sorry for my actions per se, right? I mean, it's an interesting kind of statement that Madigan was able to make. Yeah.
And prosecutors had time and time again said he's shown no remorse. There's been no, contrition. There's been no, and again, and the judge, there were several times during sentencing last Friday when the judge essentially repeated exactly what Sarah Stryker and Julia Schwartz had said in their arguments in favor of the sentences and the fines that they recommended. So when the judge is echoing the prosecutors and you're sitting there awaiting your sentence, things probably aren't going to go very well for you. Indeed, that was the case for Mr. Madigan.
Well, we'll have to get you back on to talk about all of the concerns of a lack of movement on ethics. Obviously, the State House finished up their spring session with no real ethical changes in legislation. So we'll have to have that conversation again sometime soon. Jim Talamonte, reporter for the Center Square in Chicago, all throughout the duration of the Madigan trial. You were there all throughout the jury deliberation, and now we've got this finality with sentencing and the reporting date, but there's going to be a lot more to talk about all of this. Greatly appreciate your reporting as always, and people can go check that out at thecentersquare.com, where you can see his story up right now. Prison looms for Illinois' former man in charge, Madigan. Get the newsletter in the inbox every morning. Just sign up for it at thecentersquare.com, and also be sure to subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Illinois in Focus Daily. Jim, we'll talk soon because we still got a news plan that we got to get ready for the day, all right?
All right, thanks, Greg.
Appreciate you. And on our way out, why not? Let's go ahead and review just a couple of moments of when I had confronted Madigan to ask questions about a variety of things. And this is years ago in the halls of the state capitol. Just a couple of brief little reminders, some reminiscing of sorts from, gosh, how many years ago? 7 years ago now?
Is that the guy from the policies?
Yeah. Illinois News Network, Franklin Center.
When are you guys going to fold your tent? Which one is from the Policy Institute?
Right here.
Right here?
Illinois News Network.
Yeah, and you live in Lincoln Tower.
We're neighbors. Are these intimidation techniques?
Yeah, right.
Only if you want it to be.
Yeah, are these intimidation techniques? Only if you want them to be. It's kind of a fascinating journey that life takes us, no question, but we'll continue watching that story. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, wake up with us each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus Daily. Department of Justice filing a brief. We'll get to that coming up here soon. And this is all concerning the gun ban challenge in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. But we've got to tackle how your tax dollars are going to be spent come July 1st. So stay tuned. It's right here with Illinois in Focus. Governor J.B. Pritzker signing the state's largest spending plan in Illinois history, $55.2 billion budget. That increases taxes on a whole host of things, from cell phone surcharges to, tobacco, sports betting. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus. Want to remind people to get the newsletter. Just go to thecentersquare.com and you can find that. Sign up. It's free for you and anybody, really. We're a free newswire service. So you can also donate to the Center Square. Let's get to the budget because obviously it was the top thing that state legislators were supposed to do. You had long hours at the State House in the final home stretch. It's a $55.2 billion plan that legislators didn't get to see what the final bill was until hours before adjournment. It seems to happen every year. It's the last thing they ultimately push through before the midnight deadline is the state budget. But Republicans sued because they feel Democrats violated the 3 readings rule by doing gut and replace and last-minute bill filings and not necessarily going through 3 substantive readings in each chamber before it passes. So that lawsuit's still out there. But the governor yesterday signing the budget into effect, he talked about how it was difficult to balance the budget, but they made it happen, he claims. And just to give me a double check here, I'm seeing some audio. I hear the audio levels, but I'm not seeing much audio levels on the live stream. I'm hoping that you guys can tell me if you've heard the governor there or if it's just better this way. Let's try this. And 3, 2, 1, go.
After decades of budget mismanagement, we are doing the hard work of crafting balanced budgets year after year. This year, that task was made harder by the turbulent national economic conditions and unstable federal funds flow caused by the chaos and ineptitude of the Trump administration. Despite that, the budget maintains core investments for Illinois' families without raising their taxes.
So the governor saying that the Trump administration's national economy is causing pressures on Illinois. He went on further to talk more about President Donald Trump and how his actions are impacting the state budget, Pritzker claims.
The Trump administration is spending wildly on tax cuts for their wealthy friends, while the Republicans in Congress are voting to gut health care and food assistance for working parents, for seniors, and children. The Trump slump is affecting the entire nation. Our neighbors in Iowa are dipping into their rainy day fund, and Indiana is making major cuts to higher education and health care. While the Trump administration goes on Fox News lying about being fiscally responsible, Illinois is showing a better way, balancing the budget while maintaining the programs that most people rely on. With rising gas prices across the nation and Trump tariffs taking a bite out of everyone's wallets, our General Assembly and I are working together to make life more affordable for working families.
Now, the Republicans pushed back when the budget was revealed because they saw all these different tax increases, from a surcharge on cell phones to pay for a helpline. You've got increased tobacco taxes and including vaping products and other nicotine products like those nicotine salts pouches that people are using. You'll see an increased tax on sports wagering. You'll see an increased tax tax on bed and breakfasts. You'll see changes in corporate taxes, a whole bunch of those. So increased taxes by the tune of like $480 million. But then when you work in the corporate stuff and different types of fund sweeps and such, then you're getting to like $1 billion of tax increases and different revenue collections that the governor is using to pay for the most expensive state budget in state history. So he obviously had a celebration of sorts yesterday, signing the budget. But he also had to take questions. And one question he had was about the health benefits for immigrant adults program. This program started up a couple of years ago during the pandemic, and it's essentially Illinois taxpayers subsidizing the health insurance for non-citizens in the state. If they're asylum, illegal, I don't know. It's however you want to characterize them, whatever category they fit into there, they would be able to get health care subsidies from the Illinois taxpayer. So the health benefits for immigrant adults program is different from the health benefits for immigrant seniors program. The adults program is ending with this budget. The senior program is continuing. Now, both programs, recent audits showed cost overruns, internal reporting errors. There were individuals on the program who had Social Security numbers when the program that's not what it was meant for. You had overall costs being $1.6 billion just over 3 years. And even Governor Pritzker, when he was asked about the health benefits for immigrant adults program going away, he said, listen, this is it's an expensive endeavor, and it cost a lot more than we anticipated. But he was asked, you're claiming Republicans are wanting to take people off of Medicaid rolls, but the governor here in Illinois is the one that's taking people off of Medicaid rolls.
I just happened to have been in Minnesota. They also had a program that they eliminated, so we're not the only state. Lots of states have faced the challenge of budgeting and balancing their budgets this year. This was part of the challenge that we had to address. It was a program that had been growing significantly in cost. I do believe that everybody should have health care. I also know that we have to live within our means in the state of Illinois, and particularly because of all the mismanagement that's occurred over so many years. So we've got to rein it in and make sure that we're actually balancing the budget, and that was part of the decision that was made with regard to that program. As you know, we kept the program that's focused on seniors who are the most vulnerable. And it's true that when people don't have health insurance, that they often end up in an emergency room, and that can cost taxpayers more than the coverage that we might otherwise provide. We've got to work out how we're going to cover everybody in the state of Illinois, and that's something that I believe significantly is the job of state government and something that we'll continue to look at.
So obviously it's going to be a major point of political conversation for the governor, and that is the question of universal health care. He's pushed that before, but here he is taking health care away from a population that he has catered to, he and Democrats at the State House, with sanctuary policies and health benefits that are subsidized by the taxpayer, and school and shelter and legal services, and the millions of dollars going to welcoming centers across the state. Are those funds being audited? I mean, there's a whole host of concerns here, right? But in the budget, gets rid of the health benefit for immigrant adults, keeps the health benefit for immigrant seniors, spends a whole bunch of money on all kinds of other things, from state operations to K through 12 and higher education and prisons and state police and back to cities and villages and communities across the state. There's also a lot of pet projects in there, including a pet project for Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch's district, Proviso School District, getting $40 million. And this is just a part of what Republicans said was in the budget a bunch of pork. And these are projects that are given to Democratic districts, and that could be, $1.5 million for infrastructure or for a different nonprofit group or so on. But Republicans say they weren't allowed to take part in that decision of where those funds were going to go for specific districts. Well, Speaker Welch's district in particular was a focal point because, well, he's the speaker, and when you've got school districts that want new facilities, they have to ask taxpayers, hey, can we increase your taxes to pay for this new facility now? Not sure why there's no effort to have long-term planning and, put savings away and to know that you've got maintenance you need to have happen and such, but another conversation for another day. When it comes to local school districts wanting to build, they have to ask local taxpayers for that money. But in Speaker Welch's district, in particular, the state budget does outline $40 million of state money. Not local taxpayer dollars that are paid to the local community, but state taxpayer dollars going to Welch's office. He defended that.
Let me respond to that this way. My new Chief of Staff, Clayton Harris III, is here with me this morning. One of the things that we're proud of doing is that we took the minority leader and her chief of staff to dinner. And I turned to her and I said, "Leader, how can I help you? How can I help your members?" And her response to me was, "Don't expect us to vote for the budget. Don't expect us to get primaried." Let me tell you, I vote for a budget because I want to help my community. I don't do something because I worry about the next election. If helping Proviso in the region that I grew up in is going to cost me an election, I'm willing to do that. I'm fine with that. But people sent me to Springfield to help the community, to help this state, and I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm really proud of it.
So Speaker Welch defending the decision to earmark dollars for his district when it comes to new facilities and such. But listen, the budget also does a whole host of other things. It gives like $100 million to the rainy day fund, starting to build those reserves up. Governor Pritzker talked about getting a bunch of credit rating upgrades over the past several years. Illinois still has, I think, the lowest or the second lowest credit rating of all states in the country. And one of the reasons why is because of the huge amount of pension obligations the state has. Taxpayers are on the hook for $140 billion of unfunded pension liabilities. Well, part of this, Governor Pritzker says the budget that he signed yesterday tackles.
This budget addresses the Tier 2 pension Social Security safe harbor fix, which will now begin in FY26. For a third time since I took office, we are funding above the required pension payment to create a $75 million reserve fund for the expected costs associated with maintaining the Social Security wage base. With this fix going into effect, we're protecting our taxpayers and state workers from future shortfalls that could cost the state much more.
So the budget signed, largest state spending plan in state history, $55.2 billion. You got all of the ins and outs, but one thing it didn't include was the transit funding. And how's that going to be paid for? Are they going to have to come back this summer to deal with that, or will they wait until October for, the fall veto session? And what about all the other, like we talked about the Madigan situation, no ethics reforms brought about. Are they going to bring about ethics reforms after Madigan goes to prison October 13th? How's that going to work? So we'll watch all of this as we do with the Center Square. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm Greg Bishop. The budget starts July 1st. So all those tax increases, tobacco, cell phone, the sports betting increases, the bed and breakfast, the corporate tax changes. Keep going down that list. All of that is expected to go into effect July 1st. That's when the fiscal year begins. All right. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. President Donald Trump says Governor J.B. Pritzker is probably the worst governor in the country in talking about increased immigration enforcement. I'm Greg Bishop. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Here with you each and every weekday morning, and you can get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. If you want to check out the podcast in its entirety, you can search for Illinois in Focus or just wake up with us live, and a pretty lively bunch in the chat room. All right, so let's get to the latest on immigration enforcement. You've got Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker testifying last week. We went through, gosh, it was like a 20-minute plus segment of some of the highlights of just Pritzker testifying in front of the U.S. House Committee during that 9-hour hearing. I mean, he was alongside Tim Walz from Minnesota and New York Governor Kathy Hochul, but we just focused on Illinois because why? It's Illinois in focus. So we heard a lot of what the governor had to say defending the migrant sanctuary policies in front of that U.S. House Committee and really saying that it's the federal government's fault that there hasn't been comprehensive immigration reform. What that looks like, not sure, but this in the face of President Donald Trump, who got elected to secure the border, and he talked about doing deportations of those in the country illegally. Now, Governor Pritzker, he also said that, and he reiterated this yesterday when asked about it, the issue of the difference between a civil detention order and a criminal detention order. Those are the distinctions in law, but also a line drawn by Illinois as to allowing local police to cooperate with federal immigration officials. They won't let them cooperate if it's a civil detention order, but if it's a criminal detention order, then yes, they will cooperate. How that's communicated on the ground with officers just getting orders to go and apprehend somebody and enforce an order, a detention order, that's unclear. But what is clear is the president is moving forward with enhanced immigration enforcement. Saw a lot of disruption in Los Angeles, where the president declared he took over the National Guard for California and had them on the ground protecting federal buildings, while local police tried to keep calm amongst protesters, some of them turning violent and into riotous behavior, and all of this while ICE is trying to conduct deportation enforcements, or at least immigration enforcements. So yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker was signing the budget, and he talked about a variety of other things after the fact. But before the governor signed the budget, President Donald Trump was up in Canada meeting with leaders of the G7, and he took just a couple of real quick questions, and one of them was concerning immigration enforcement in select cities.
Did you hear your host last night where he said he wants us to really target Democrats?
I want them to focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals, and New York and L.A. Look at L.A. L.A. Those people weren't from L.A. They weren't from California. Most of those people, many of those people, and that's a focus. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
And that was something that was brought up during that hearing last week with Governor J.B. Pritzker and other Democratic governors from states that have migrant sanctuary policies, and that is something a Republican congressman brought up, asking if the immigration influx allowed by the Biden administration was meant to pad the numbers in the U.S. Census for states with a larger number of non-citizen migrants all of a sudden moving in. That way it can boost those states' population and give them more seats in Congress. Now, interesting to look at that, how Illinois might play into that, for instance. Illinois lost population for a decade, for 10 straight years, a population of decline, a decade of decline. And last year, the annual estimates came out and showed like 60,000 people moving out of Illinois to other states. But that was offset by 100,000+ international immigration into Illinois. So because of the influx of non-citizens coming to Illinois, it offset that 1 year in 11 years of Illinois' population decline. Should the federal government and the U.S. Census count non-citizens as part of the census? That was a question that Pritzker was asked last week. We highlighted some of that last week as well. But yesterday, after signing the budget, Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked about enhanced immigration enforcement efforts in cities like Chicago. Here's the governor.
I do not believe that he will call out the national. I think he's seen that this has not gone well for him politically, and he's all about the politics. And so I think what he's done in California has really hurt him politically, and so I don't think he'll do it in other places. But we know that ICE is coming once again in force to cities across the country, and so we expect to see them in Chicago. I don't know exactly how big the force will be, but I do know that he has used other law enforcement along with ICE to carry out his, ill-conceived mission to go after people who frankly are paying taxes and they're law-abiding and they've been here for many, many years. I think those are the wrong people to go after. We ought to go after the violent criminals. We ought to people who get convicted of violent crimes, who are undocumented, should be thrown out of this country. So they should be taken out of Illinois and they should be thrown out of the country. That is not what they're doing.
So Governor J.B. Pritzker fully anticipating that they are indeed going to be seeing increased enforcement efforts from the federal government to go after individuals in the country illegally. And how that looks like on the streets, we'll watch, we'll report. Go to thecentersquare.com, get some of the latest. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell here with Illinois in Focus Daily, The Center Square on YouTube, or at thecentersquare.com. All right, stand by, guys. We're going to do that Department of Justice filing next.
Calling out the National Guard. Change of administration, that's their, this is their, they obviously don't understand the damage that's being done across the country where there are no assault weapons bans.
It's Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday responding to a question about the U.S. Department of Justice filing an amicus brief in the appeals court siding with the district judge saying that the Illinois gun ban is unconstitutional. This as nearly a third of the Illinois state's attorneys from across the state have also filed an amicus brief siding with the district judge that it's unconstitutional to ban commonly owned firearms that are owned for lawful purposes. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. It's pretty interesting to watch all of this unfold. And if you guys have been watching and following me at thecentersquare.com and here on YouTube for the past 2.5 years, we've been watching what's going on with this case. Even from before the Protect Illinois Communities Act passed, in January of 2023 during a lame duck session of the state legislature with a gut and replace bill. It's been a contentious legal battle all throughout 2023 with lawsuits in state and federal court, up and down the judiciary in the Northern District and the Southern District. You had state level cases go all the way to the Illinois Supreme Court. You had different rulings across the spectrum with not much hearings as far as like evidence that was compiled and the record that was made. A lot of it was just via briefings and maybe some oral arguments, but at least when it comes to the Southern District of Illinois case, that one is still very much alive, and it's in the appeals court now on final judgment. So keep in mind, in 2023, after PICA, the Protect Illinois Communities Act, was passed and signed by the governor, they had preliminary legal maneuvers trying to challenge the law. And in the Southern District, on the initial request of, hey, hold this temporarily while we deal with the the meat and potatoes of it, all right? But while we deal with the meat and potatoes, please take action now to block this from being impacting Illinois residents while we figure out if it's constitutional. Those preliminary issues lasted all of 2023. District judge said preliminary injunction. Appeals court said, we're reversing that preliminary injunction, and then they even went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court and asked for them to take the case, but the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, it's not ready yet. We want final judgment. So it went back to the district courts, and there, Judge Stephen McGlynn held a 4-day bench trial. I sat through all of it. If you were following me on X, you saw a lot of the rapid-fire tweeting about the testimony and all of the documentation that was talked about during that 4-day bench trial in the Southern District in East St. Louis, where Judge Stephen McGlynn wrapped up the hearing talking about the race riots in East St. Louis and how if the black population there only had similar types of firearms to protect themselves from rioters, it would probably have been a different outcome in East St. Louis so many years ago. So Judge McGlynn, after several weeks, decided, yes, this law is unconstitutional. These firearms are not the same as military firearms. AR-15s and semi-automatic firearms are commonly owned, and there's no history or an analog law from the founding era to ultimately have this law be legit. So the district judge last fall made that ruling, but he put a stay on the permanent injunction. Not a preliminary one, right? So again, all through 2023, preliminary stuff, all through 2024, final judgment stuff. And that came in November or so, or sometime in the fall. Immediately, the state appealed the district judge's ruling, went to the appeals court. The appeals court kept the stay in place, but they sat on it for months, not even giving a briefing schedule. Plaintiffs had to say, appeals court, listen, we're in limbo right now. We had a district judge that said this law is unconstitutional, and you guys aren't acting on this. You're just keeping your foot on the ruling from keeping it going into effect. So the appeals court then laid out the briefing schedule. The briefing schedule is now, and we've had the state file their appeal to the district judge's ruling. You had the plaintiffs file their response to the state, and now we get to amicus briefs where the U.S. Department of Justice filed an amicus brief with Assistant Attorney General Harmy Dillon, posting this on X. The Second Amendment is not a second-class right. See you in court, Illinois. Proud of my civil rights team. Thank you, Jesus. Or is it Jesus? There you go. So you got a link there to the brief. You can see that via Harmy Dillon's link. And what we'll do is we'll just look at the outline, right? You can read this yourself, 34 pages. It goes through the arguments, the index of sorts, the act, they say. Illinois' law violates the Second Amendment by banning AR-15s and other firearms that are in common use by law-abiding citizens for lawful reasons. Many of the banned firearms are arms under the Second Amendment. The AR-15s and other firearms banned by the act are in common use by law-abiding citizens for lawful reasons. The U.S. Department of Justice says, as complete ban on AR-15s and other firearms that are in common use, the act violates the Second Amendment. It goes on to say, text history and precedent confirm that a legislature may not ban a class of weapons on the ground that the weapons are militaristic. So that was a real crucial part of the record that was built in the district court, which is different than what we've seen in other cases that have gone to the U.S. Supreme Court, not having as thorough of a record. So the record really reflected the difference between militaristic firearms and consumer grade firearms, from the metallurgy to the switch of semi-auto to full auto to burst and so on. So the U.S. Department of Justice pointing out that text history and precedent confirm that legislature may not ban a class of weapons on the ground that the weapons are militaristic. The Second Amendment text does not exclude militaristic arms. What is the Second Amendment? I'm sure some of you guys could probably recite it, but a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that doesn't say anything about militaristic weapons. So back to this brief here. Second Amendment's history demonstrates the possession of at least certain militaristic weapons was a core part of the right to keep and bear arms. The U.S. Department of Justice, again, this is not a Second Amendment, foundation or an Illinois State Rifle Association or, the whatever other National Rifle Association, any other Second Amendment nonprofit group that advocates for Second Amendment rights. This is the U.S. Department of Justice filing this. So the Second Amendment history demonstrates the possession of at least certain militaristic weapons was a core part of the right to keep and bear arms. Second Amendment related precedent confirms that the government may not ban weapons on the grounds that they are militaristic. And it also says the act violates the Second Amendment by banning the possession of magazines and other firearms attachments that are in common use by law-abiding citizens for lawful reasons. So that, again, is the brief that the U.S. Department of Justice filed on behalf of supporting the district judge's ruling that Illinois' law is unconstitutional and to support the plaintiffs in this case. So how that's going to weigh in on this, especially it not being at the U.S. Supreme Court, but already it's right in the appeals court. This case could be the case that goes to the U.S. Supreme Court that they take up because, again, it's got that thorough record in the district court. So let's now check out what the state's attorneys from across the state have also filed after the DOJ filed their brief. You can see this through Thomas Haynes' office. He is the Madison County state's attorney, and he says he's leading the state's attorneys of 35 counties and calling for Illinois' ban on firearms to be ruled unconstitutional. There are 102 counties in Illinois. You've got 35 of them. So that's, right about a third of the counties in Illinois have state's attorneys that are asking a federal appeals court to find Illinois' gun ban unconstitutional. So that is stacked on top of the U.S. Department of Justice filing saying that the Illinois ban is unconstitutional. So Madison County State's Attorney Tom Haynes, he's assembled the team of 35 elected state's attorneys from across the state to file an amicus brief. They say that the state's attorneys argue the ban enacted by Illinois is unconstitutional because it broadly bans entire categories of firearms that are widely owned by law-abiding Illinoisans, and the ban does not follow the historical tradition of firearm regulation in the United States. Goes on to talk about the duties of protecting the Constitution and individuals' rights. Talks a bit about the history of the ban and it prohibiting the sale of AR-15 style rifles. Gives some history of the case. But then you've got the brief arguing, according to a news release, as prosecutors, we go to work every day to deter such crimes, command justice for victims, put those who do harm to our communities behind bars, and protect our residents by strengthening the justice system and enforcing the rule of law. The brief also argues that it's in service to that same rule of law that we urge the Honorable Court to support and uphold the constitutionally protected rights enshrined in the Second Amendment, the right of the people to own commonplace firearms so they can defend hearth and home and live freely with the means to secure their own and others' ultimate safety. So let's just, here's all the different, I'm not going to read every single one of these off, but this is the 35 different state's attorneys. Brown County, Calhoun County, Carroll County, Christian County, Clark County, Clay County, Clinton County, Cumberland County, Edwards County, maybe I will read all these off, Effingham County, Gallatin County, Hancock County, Henry County, Iroquois County, Jefferson County, Jasper County, Jersey County, Joe Davies County, Johnson County, Livingston County, Madison County, Marion County, Mercer County, Monroe County, Ogle County, Perry County, Pulaski County, and Schuyler County. Are you in those counties? Also Scott County, Union County, Vermilion County, Warren County, Washington County, White County, Woodford County. Those are the 35 different state's attorneys that are filing in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals saying that the law banning certain firearms is unconstitutional. So Governor J.B. Pritzker signing the budget yesterday, he was taking off-topic questions. I wasn't in Chicago yesterday, but I had a fellow reporter ask him to respond to the DOJ saying that the gun ban in Illinois is unconstitutional. And here's Governor J.B. Pritzker's response.
Look, change of administration, that's their, this is their, they obviously don't understand the damage that's being done across the country where there are no assault weapons bans. And they have paid zero attention to the fact that in the 90s, when there was a national assault weapons ban, the number of killings went down significantly. And so they're wrong-headed on so many things, but this is yet another of those. Thank you all very much.
Now, obviously, you can slice numbers all kinds of different ways, but the governor's saying that killings went down during the national assault weapons ban back in the 90s. A lot of people refuting that online. Maybe it's something some fact checkers can delve deep into the statistics and find all of that out. And obviously, that's going to be done as they go to court on this with oral arguments. When those arguments are going to be made, not sure. When they're going to be scheduled, not sure, but you've got one more round of filings going to happen from the state in this case, and that's expected in the weeks ahead. And then we'll get oral arguments at some point. But also in the Second Amendment space, Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday signing House Bill 850. That's the measure that supporters say allows for some due process for individuals who have their firearm owner ID card taken away or denied. And it allows for that individual to have some due process to find out why and to possibly go to court eventually to get their rights back. But opponents of the measure said it's not due process at all to have somebody's Second Amendment rights taken away through an administrative process, not an actual due process of an individual facing their accuser in courts and being convicted of something before their rights get taken away. So Governor Pritzker signed House Bill 850 yesterday. He still has the safe storage law on his way to his desk after the legislature approved that. There may be a big bill signing ceremony for that one. So we'll be watching for when that's signed. But all of this happening while you've got the Illinois Auditor General's office putting out audits of the firearm owner identification card and Illinois State Police. And you can go through and find this at auditor.illinois.gov. And what they found was that Illinois State Police are not following the FOID card law on a couple of different things. They're not putting the money from the FOID card where it needs to go. This has been an ongoing concern, and you've even had, politicians past and present talk about how they shouldn't be sweeping these FOID funds. They should be going to where they're supposed to go to help out the process of keeping the FOID card operational. So the audit found that money's being swept, but it also found that people weren't being notified in a timely manner about their FOID card expiration coming up, and that's another issue that we've tackled before in the past, just the entire process of the FOID card and the delays that happen. So you can go check that out as well at auditor.illinois.gov. You can see the audit of State Police Administration of the FOID Card Act and also the FOID card and concealed carry programs. So read up on all of that. So we'll be watching this and more, right? So stay with us, Illinois in Focus Daily, each and every weekday morning. And you can also follow me on X. Just search Bishop on Air. We can connect that way and, get the podcast where you get podcasts. Search Illinois in Focus. Get the newsletter in your inbox at thecentersquare.com and stay informed of what's going on with Illinois in Focus Daily. Whoa, that's always good. Went a little long today. I went so long that my computer monitors, I have them set to go off at a certain time, and you can see I don't have my monitors just went completely off. Give me a moment here. I'm telling you what, technology, man. Yesterday was tough. Internet going out literally 5 minutes before the show's supposed to start. And then I had to go work at the Capitol where, here we go, turning all those back on. Okay. Rise. Did that screw anything up? I'm back on now. Did you guys, did that screw anything up with the live stream or the audio or anything? I'd be interested to find that out. I don't even know. Yesterday I went to the Capitol and I was having technology issues there, right? They had the internet, but then my computer had to restart at the Capitol and update, and it just took a bit to get into it. But here we are now. Back home with internet. A little fumble here and there, but it's all good. Okay, guys, Greatly appreciate you being in the chat room. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, I promise, here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this with your friends. Hit the thumbs up. It helps us out here, obviously, getting more people to tune in and take part. So you can do that by going to the share button. You can email people. You can get that newsletter in your email. You can tell them about the newsletter and so on. So we'll see you back here tomorrow. It's only Tuesday, right? I'm Greg Bishop. Have a great day. By the way, I saw somebody ask, I need some kind of ending music for the show so they know that was the last segment. This is that music, just so you know. Okay.